out there on Facebook. I'm so excited to bring you this Facebook Live town hall. Before we get into what the topic is, first I'd like to say that we want to send condolences to anyone that lost folks during this pandemic. One thing that we're very well aware of is that coronavirus, COVID-19, is affecting each and every one of us. And unfortunately, it has a disparate effect on people that look like us. Many of us may have contracted it. Many of us know people that have contracted it. Many of us, unfortunately, know people that close to us that have passed, and have people in our families, in our institutions, in our organizations that have passed. And this is something that is, in light of everything that's going on, we have to first recognize the folks that are, currently dealing with the worst of coronavirus. Moving forward, also, we want to make sure that we are responsible right now with all that we do, that we follow all of the proper protocols for coronavirus, that we properly make sure that we stay safe. Now, moving forward, we talked about how we are going to open up New York back in a phased approach, but we must be responsible in this process. As we said before, in our communities, we have to make sure that we are the ones policing our own communities. So there were supermarkets in our neighborhood that weren't abiding by it properly, that we have to make sure that we police that properly, because we have to protect ourselves. Okay, so saying all that, 2 weeks ago we did a program, a town hall, where we had the mothers talking about what they're doing with distance learning, talk about having the children at home or what have you. And there's been a lot of comments about that. And we got a lot of folks talking, and it was a very great, exciting program. But there was a question about, what about the dads? What about the fathers? The fathers need love too. As a matter of fact, when we looked at when you go to sports, the father and the mother could be at home, but when the guy makes the 3-point shot, or when you win the championship, you don't give no love to dad. You always give a shout out to your moms. Now, and I'm guilty of that too. And my dad is the man, but but we got to give the dad some love, and we got to make sure, if you guys ever watch Chris Rock, say, all the dad gets is the big piece of chicken. And sometimes he don't even get that. But it's true. But before we move on, we have a great panel today. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. But before I go on and introduce the host, I want to introduce and give some words to one of my colleagues, who is a great dad of two children, of two grown adults at this point, Senator Leroy Comrie.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good to see your faces. Haven't seen some faces in a while. Hope to see you in person soon. When you get home at 10 o'clock, a lot of times you don't get the big piece of chicken. You don't get the chicken at all. But it's a way of life around here. But I just want to thank Clive for putting this together. It's an opportunity for us to talk on a more personal one-on-one basis about the issues and stresses that we all face as Black men, and how we can work together to try to alleviate that and lean on each other to move past things. I can let you know, I love what I do. I love serving my community. When I do get stressed, I come home and veg out. I'm fortunate that I have a household that when they see me in a need to be in a vegetative state, they'll give me a little bit of time to make that happen. Just a little bit of time. I have to work on it, but it's a balance. But to have other people to talk to have people that understand that they are there for you. I'm fortunate that I have my best friend I go back to pre-kindergarten with. So if I really need to talk to somebody, I'll call him up, and we don't talk often, but we touch base. We try to touch base at least once a month just to check on each other, see how we're doing. I have another best friend. He and I go back to the 3rd grade. And, you know, I've been fortunate that they've kept me grounded. They've kept me focused, and, you know, they've kept me humble during my time in office and even before that. And we've been able to lean on each other, lean and grow with each other, and now get gray hair with each other too. So, you know, it's been a life process that we're all going through. And I would just say that, you know, we all need to be able to talk with somebody, or, you know, work things out with people so that you can just have a sounding board. I think it's, you know, always good to, you know, I've been able to listen to people no matter where they're from or what they're doing, because everybody has some wisdom to impart, some things to share that's important. And it's good to keep an open ear and an open mind to whoever is trying to impart information to you. I've learned information from alcoholics on Jamaica Avenue. I've learned information from hoods walking down Merrick Boulevard. You know, I've learned information from seniors at a church event. If you keep an open ear and an open mind, people can impart their wisdom to you, and you can derive from them the wisdom in what they're saying if you open your mind and keep an open heart, and remember that the Lord is guiding your steps. And keeping the Lord first is most important. I don't want to get preachy, but, you know, I don't do what I do without understanding that the Lord guides my steps and orders my heart. So, you know, and understanding that is most important overall to everything. But understanding that you have to keep an open mind to whomever you encounter, because everyone has something to offer, even if they're doing it in a hostile manner. You know, there's still things that people impart that they don't even understand that they're imparting. So I want to thank Brother Vanel for doing this. Assemblyman has been on the cusp of so many important things in our lives, from technology to social media to, you know, making sure that we relate to each other as people. And I just want to thank him for putting this together. Thank you all.
And before I introduce the host, I want to introduce another colleague of mine who is a new dad, who I see him losing his hair, trying to deal with the, you know, the ongoings of being a new dad. Councilman Donovan Richards.
And Leroy Conry still got more hair than me. But let me thank you, brother, Assemblymember Clyde Vanel, for hosting this necessary forum. You know, as fathers and as dads and as men, we often don't like to talk about our feelings as much. But I think it's good for us to develop this space. And I want to thank you for creating this space for dads and fathers to really come together on a platform during COVID, which is really complicated, right? So I mean, I've spent a lot of my time every morning. I'm doing remote learning with my son, and if you know anything about young Simbas, they like to challenge their dads. But it's been really great and phenomenal. I felt like, you know, the first couple of weeks, it was really challenging to have a 4-year-old sitting in front of a computer, talking to his teacher, trying to keep him still in his seat. But we really made a lot of progress over the course of the last weeks. And one of the things people have recommended is definitely keeping a schedule for kids. And I think, you know, being married to an educator, she's really good at that. It's always the dads that tend to spiel off a little bit, but I followed her direction, I'm happy to say, in this area. And he gets a McDonald's Happy Meal every Friday as he gets his start. So I just want to stress as dads, you know, to really try to follow a routine every day. Which is critical. And then it's just that delicate balance, like as the senator will tell you, as the assembly member will tell you, of balance and time, even being home. Like, I mean, we have been on the phone. I've been on the phone since 10:30 this morning. There has been no break, literally. I mean, I just got off a phone conference with the speaker. I had one with DOE. We had collectively all of our colleagues on this line, and the congressman, and then I mean, it's just been ongoing all day. So just finding that delicate balance as elected officials, especially now that we're home, to make sure we're also feeding the souls of our young men and of our sons and daughters as well through this process. Let me just say this: I'm just happy you're holding this platform this morning. This afternoon, I'll stress just some other things we're working on, making sure people get the devices they need. So if you're a dad at home with your kids and they need a computer, we had a conference call with the superintendent just a little while ago to speak about computers getting into the hands of our kids. You should know that there's access for that. Social and emotional learning is also seems to be a big part of that, although we have a lot of questions around oversight around this stuff. But to the dads, hang in there. I mean, I'm doing one of the other things I do is I take my son on a walk, whether it's with my wife or not on some days. We go in the backyard, we try to kick a ball, just to continue to make sure we're holding that bond strong as we're home. Because even though this is a crisis, where we're all isolated, it also does give us an opportunity to be with the family and to try to figure out family activities that we normally would not have the time to do in our times of busyness. So I want to thank you, Assembly Member. I look forward to hearing from the other panelists. But as my sweatshirt says, a father's love. Continue to love our children.
Well, Councilman, thanks for being here. And let's get right to it. I'd like to introduce the host, Dr. Stacey NC Grant. She's an award-winning international speaker. She's a best-selling author. She's the founder of Destiny Designers University. She's also has a unique suite of live and self-directed study a study on every aspect of entrepreneurship. She's also the one that hosts the signature event called Faithpreneur, which is a successful organization and event space that trains people about entrepreneurship and self-development. She does so much. We're very proud of her. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Stacey NC Grant, take it away.
Yeah. Thank you, Assemblyman Vanell. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be the only lady surrounded by the men tonight. And it's an honor, Assemblyman, to be able to host this as you co-sponsor it with all of our elected officials here in South Queens. Great to see our Senator Comrie and our Councilman Riches as they represent just part of the commitment of a collective with hard work that goes into running Southeast Queens. And to see the lineup we have tonight just brings me joy. We have approximately 45 minutes to get into a real in-depth conversation. That's important to say that dads, dads do it too. And I know that each of you have a story to tell, and I want to let the audience know about who is on our broadcast tonight. So I'm going to start with the founder of the Eagle Academy, the one and only David C. Banks. Each one of them are going to introduce themselves and tell you one quick fun fact about them. So I just threw that in there.
Hey, Stacey, it's good to see you. And I wanted to thank certainly Assemblymember Clyde Vanell, who I've known over the years, and thank him for his leadership. The Senator Comrie and Councilman Donovan. Got some great brothers out there holding it down out there in Southeast Queens. I grew up in Southeast Queens, in Cambria Heights. I moved from Crown Heights in Brooklyn to Cambria Heights out in Queens, and just had a great upbringing. And I would just simply say, because I'm not going to stay on, you got some great people on who are really here to provide some really great insight. But that, yes, dads matter. Dads are critically important in our communities. I had the best father in the world, still do, growing up out there in Queens. And my father was that role model for me, which everything that I do, all the work that I've done throughout my career has really in so many ways been modeled after the way my dad served as my mentor, my role model for myself as well as my brothers. And so I've raised 4 children. They're all grown. I like to say that I'm very fortunate because I still like them, and that is not a given. And I would just encourage all the dads who are out there and the fathers and the father figures who are out there who are listening today to know that you are essential service. You provide essential services in our community, not the least of which is just everything that you do every single day for your own children. There's nothing that you will ever do in your life that is more important than the rearing and the raising and loving of your children. And so it's the thing that I'm the most proud of. And I talk to my kids every day. So my fun fact would simply be that pray for me. I'm a Knicks fan. I've been a Knicks fan my whole life. It's been hard. I've raised all my kids to be Knicks fans as well. And so it's a way in which we kind of connect and we bond and we talk every day. And so just love and strength to all of the men and all the fathers who are out there. And you're in for a great conversation with some of these other great panel members that you have today. So thank you so much, and love you, Stacy.
Love you more, David. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We know that you have to go take care of another piece of business, and we have some great men to hold it down. But before I continue with the introductions of our panelists, we've just been joined by our dear Congressman Gregory Meeks, and I want to allow him an opportunity just to say a few words, 2 minutes or so, as we get into the conversation, because he is from call to call, meeting to meeting, supporting all of the outreach that's happening during COVID-19. And Congressman, we just want to tell you how much we love and appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of co-hosting tonight's conversation.
Well, thank you. And I'm delighted to be here with all of the brothers, especially. I'm trying to be like David Banks. So I'm growing a beard, you know what I mean? I want to be like David. But I want to thank Brother Clyde Vanell for all the work that he does on a continuous basis, fighting in Albany, trying to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve. And definitely you, who, you know, always are working with us in Southeastern Queens, particularly. Let me just say real quick, and then I want, to make sure, because I know there's a dynamite panel and questions to be had, and I don't want to get in the way of any of that. But I'm so proud of the brothers, because brothers understand that we've got to multitask and really be partners and make sure that we're dealing with our young folks, our children, being helpful in the house. I know with me being here now, being I get home, I've got my chores that I've got to try to do in between my calls, like make sure I got the garbage out in time. And I was shopping on Saturday. My wife had to do some other things, so I had to make sure I have my college daughter is here, and we've got to make sure that we interface with her, particularly those things that she needs as she was doing school at home, her junior year of college at Howard University. So I'm interested to hear the panel. I'll tell you, interacting and making sure that the one thing for me that has happened, even though most of the time since I've been home, I've been spending in this seat that I'm in now, and I'm here 10 to 12 hours a day. But the fact that I could have some interfacing with my family when they walk in the office and see that I'm on a conference call or reviewing some kind of paperwork is tremendous. And the fact that I can do those daily deeds that I don't do or don't get a chance to do when I'm not home. Washing dishes before I go to bed, making sure that I'm doing and making a contribution, but also trying to find, some time to just hug my daughter and my wife is just tremendous. And my two oldest girls, I try to make sure that I get a chance to do some Facebook Live or WhatsApping with them. And most importantly, my year and 3-month granddaughter, who I want to see and touch and hold, which I can't do right now, but I see her on FaceTime. It is tremendous. So thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. And Clyde Vanell, thank you, my brother, for always being on the case. Thank you all. I'll hang on for a little while. I've got to do something. Okay.
Thank you, Congressman. You have inspired all the men who haven't been pulling their load on washing the dishes, that if the Congressman can do it, they can too. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here and your support once again. So we're going to continue with the introductions and then jump into a combination of questions that we want the dads that are here today to really express and to get some of the information that might be missing in the conversations that are being had, because dads have their own perspective on how to deal with sheltering in and distance learning and just coping as a man of the house. So I'm going to go over to our Deputy Superintendent for District 29, Dr. Shawn Rue. Are you ready? We're just going to test your microphone.
Good evening.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Clyde Vanell. Thank you to all the gentlemen who showed up this evening. I think it's a wonderful platform and an opportunity for us to get together. Once again, I'm Dr. Shawn Rux, Deputy Superintendent, District 29. Listen, I'm the children we serve. You know, I'm an advocate for marginalized children, and my life's work has been just using education as a tool to save lives. And that's the work that I'm called to do. Just piggybacking on the Congressman, listen, I'm mopping floors, washing dishes, and cooking. So let's not get it twisted. Men doing that work too.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Rux. So let's go over to Kevin Livingston, if you're able to unmute and introduce yourself. Oh, but before we do that, Dr. Rux, one quick fun fact outside of mopping floors.
Fun fact, I guess the first thing that comes to my mind is I'm a proud graduate of Delaware State University, HBCU, rep HBCU all day.
All right. Thank you so much. And over to you, Kevin Livingston.
How you doing? My name is Kevin Livingston. Again, I'm from South Jamaica, Queens. Glad to be on the call with all the other kings, and looking forward to a great conversation.
And you're the founder of?
I work for 100 Suits.
Thank you, Kevin. What's your fun fact?
A lot of people don't know that Harold Melvin from Harold Melvin's Blue Notes is my cousin, my father's first cousin.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we're going to go over to the one and only Rodney Pride.
Good evening, Stacy.
I can hear you, Rodney, loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Assemblyman Vanell, and good to see the Congressman. Always good seeing the Senator. Thanks for having me on, and just to be among this distinguished group of giants. I want to be the voice of mental health, right? I think folks know that I'm a member of the United Black Men of Queens, but I'm also a licensed clinical social worker. And I think that is critical for us as men. When Kayla asked me to join the conversation, to be a part of this discussion, because it's critical for us as men who are not only leaders in our own families, but leaders in general in the community. And so I've had the pleasure of working with every one of the members that I see on this panel doing critical and important work. And so the most recent work is with Dr. Rux and the 1,000 kids that we've been working on with my brother and my sister's keeper with District 29. And that's been essential and something that bodes well for what we can look forward to going forward in the future. I do think that we have to come together to begin to think about how we're going to continue this work going forward, knowing that many things will never be the same, but we have much of what we need. And it's just a question of how do we put a wrinkle to the work that we do to get our game to another level. Okay. So the fun thing that I do is that, you know, as a father and as a husband and as a grandfather, I'm spending a lot of time with my 5-year-old, you know, through virtual learning. And so not only is that my love and my passion and my joy, it keeps me grounded in terms of the work that we have to do with the more than 100,000 kids in District 29 and beyond. So thanks for having me on, and let's see if we can come away from the conversation that takes us to a place that we know we're gonna come out of this situation bigger and better and stronger than we were before we went in it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodney. Appreciate you. And now we're gonna go over to the world famous Aaron Barnett.
Good evening, family. Good evening, good evening. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Assemblyman Vanell, for having me. It's great to see you again. And Congressman Meeks, it's great to see you. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships and Mentoring Services for the Eagle Academy Foundation. Actually a founding staff member of Eagles, so this is my 16th year. Have a great deal of love for the young men that we serve. I find that it's my calling in life, and like so many of these distinguished gentlemen that are on this panel, we share such a passion for uplifting our young men. So great to be here.
Awesome. Great to
And
have
also, I'd be remiss if I did not mention I am the proud father of two children. I have a 22-year-old son and a 16-year-old daughter. So those definitely, as much as I love Eagle, I gotta say they come before.
Okay, and your fun fact, real quick.
My fun fact: I am a native of Albany, New York.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Aaron. And now we're going to go over to Darrell D. Craig from District 28.
How's everybody doing? My name is Darrell Craig. I'm the owner of iRock Charities. It's a charity that's geared to helping the less fortunate community. I try to inspire the kids. I do a lot of events for the kids. I give back to the elderly community. I do a lot of work in my neighborhood. I'm from South Jamaica, Queens, and I'm just happy to be on this panel among all of the greats of Queens and beyond. So just thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And last but not least, there is another Andrew Grant in Southeast Queens. This is not the Andrew Grant I'm married to, so don't get it twisted, but this is still my brother from another mother. So Andrew Grant, go ahead and welcome.
Hello, my wife. How you doing? How you doing? I hope my namesake is taking good care of you throughout this quarantine time, since I'm not able to be in close proximity with you. But just want to say thank you. Good evening, everyone in the panel, government officials, Clyde Vannell, my brother. Thank you. For me, I am the founder and head coach of Grant Your Wings Track Club out here in Springfield Gardens. I'm a member of New York Metro Black Pilots of America that the good Assemblyman Vannell started out here in Cambria Heights. I'm also a travel agent, Grant Your Wings Travel Agency. I do so much. I mean, where do I start? My goodness.
We're gonna give the quick version and the fun fact.
Give the quick version. I'm also a financial advisor. I do it all. So let me get you my fun fact. So throughout the day, I deal with clients on a daily basis. But what I make sure that I do is I make sure I take at least an hour of my time for us to do virtual training with the children. I do have a nonprofit that caters to obesity reduction within the children ages 5 through 18 within our community. And I make sure that at least throughout this time of uncertainty, I give them a most deserved distraction and work on helping their bodies stay fit throughout these times via Zoom.
Thank you, Andrew. You know, it's hard to tell my fellow Jamaican he has 1 minute to introduce himself because he has 10 jobs. So we will before ands, Andrew.
And I work part-time in the flower shop. Don't forget.
Well, thank you all for just giving some context for who you are and being here, taking time out of your evening schedule. We're all in this unprecedented time of a new normal that we're adjusting to. And I really want to get into some core questions tonight and also allow for our audience that's viewing to ask questions of you. So given the fact that we started this conversation with moms and juggling what it meant to work from home for those who were fortunate enough to work from home, juggling that schedule and doing distance learning. Some of you are in a position where you're actively doing that. We heard our councilman talk about how to adjust his little one to understand how to view a teacher from a screen. And then we have some of you that are in a grandparent role trying to be supportive. So I would like you to really strategically tell me just how you've been able to adapt from the educational context of what we're dealing with COVID-19, with homeschooling, distance learning, and balancing your regular day-to-day career and life. So from a father's perspective, how does this feel for you? So I want you to describe that and share with the audience just the real of what you've been feeling and how you've been able to manage the process. I'm going to start with Dr. Rux.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so listen, in all transparency, it's hard. I mean, it's not an easy task by any means for anyone. And when we first started remote learning, I was actually COVID positive. So, you know, as men, right? As men, we're strong. We're strong. We're supposed to take care of our families, right? But I couldn't be the strong parent. Like I had to be strong in a different way. I had to be strong in the fact of staying away from my family, staying away from my kids, not being able to hug my kids who are giving me that look like, Dad, I miss you, not being able to hug my wife or engage with any of them, like really isolating myself off in a room while still trying to support school leaders to complete my day-to-day job, my everyday job. So initially it was very challenging, but we know that as a people, we're resilient and we adapt and we find a way to adapt. So it was the longest 26 days, you know, of my life at times. You know, there was times when I was going to sleep and I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't know if I was waking up in the morning. And granted, the news plays tricks on you too. So that had something to do with it. However, just being resilient and shifting my focus from the fear to focusing on how to really take advantage of this opportunity of this pause in time. In reference to homeschooling, I got 2 kids at home. I have my high school senior who's dealing with the fact that her senior year is not turning out how she planned it to turn out, but she's pushing through, doing her work every day and being real resilient in her own way. And then I have my 6-year-old who I call my little firecracker, who definitely needed some more structure and guidance because she's 6, but then finding different creative opportunity ways to engage her. And really, you know, my wife and I have 40 plus years of educational experience as educators, and it's still hard for us some days. So understanding that it's hard for everybody, and I always say that everybody's a teacher, no matter what your profession is, you are a teacher, right? But it's still hard. It's still hard. It's hard to adjust, finding creative ways and not just relying on remote learning practices. There's so much teaching and learning that can happen at home outside of just sitting in front of the computer, doing the assignments or the live instruction that teachers are preparing for kids. Shout out to all the teachers who are doing that work as well. But really being creative and having conversations with my kids, having conversations with my daughters about how they're navigating through this at the same time as we're all navigating through it, giving them opportunities to write their thoughts, share their thoughts, and just not being held inside of a box. It's just, my family's been really creating an opportunity to be as creative as we can to push through so that we can be better by the time we get to the other side of this pandemic.
And thank you, Dr. Russ, for sharing that, because that's real talk. And we're glad that you recuperated from the virus and you were still able to function, not only for all of the students of District 29, but for your own household. So we're grateful for that. And I'm glad that you said that up front. Let's just cut the baseline. It's hard. Yeah, and it's hard when you're a mom or you're a dad. So now I want to jump over to Aaron Barnett, because not only is he a dad, but as someone who is a part of instruction for a network of schools, going through the conversion from school to distance learning, what have you seen when you think about how the kids are functioning and the dads are making those adjustments? Have you seen any trends? Is there anything that you want to touch on, Aaron?
Well, I think for what I've seen for a lot of the young men that we work with is that, you know, you have distance learning, but the young men are missing the emotional connection that they have at school, right? You know, at school, they have their friends, they have so many educators that care about them, that help them process different things and different emotions. And so I think that's been the biggest challenge for a lot of our young men. So, you know, a lot of the work that I do is around mentoring. So I know at Eagle, we've started virtual mentoring sessions for the young men, just again, to provide them with that support that they need during this time. You know, instruction is important, and I certainly don't discount that. But right now, with so many young people that are you know, losing loved ones, losing out on milestones that they've earned, you know, i.e. graduations and proms and not just high school graduation, right? We're talking middle school graduation as well. To provide that emotional support to them, I think is very, very important. And that's not always something that can be captured in a quote unquote distance learning curriculum, if you will. So I think it's very important that schools also provide that platform for young people to express how they're feeling and just how they feel emotionally dealing with this crisis.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that, Aaron. I want to go over to Rodney because, as a clinical psychologist, and see a lot of the trauma that is happening, of course, on the surface of dealing with life lost. Like every time you see the stats or the number of lives that have been taken due to this virus, it's one layer of it. But as a father and as a protector and as a provider, what advice would you give fathers, Rodney, on how to really deal with the emotional that they're feeling? Aaron just touched on the children needing an outlet and missing that ability to connect and interact. But what sort of advice would you give to the fathers and how they really start tapping in and touching on what they're feeling emotionally?
Well, Stacy, I think from a mental health standpoint, it's important for us as leaders and men to understand that we have to be there for our families, and we have to be there for ourselves, and we have to be there for our community, right? And so oftentimes we have to set the example. Yes, it's a little difficult, and you see death all around you. You see it on the news. Sometimes if you have the TV on too much, it's almost like you had the TV on too much and you have to turn it off. And so I would say that as the head of your family, one of the good things that we as men could do, and I think someone talked about it earlier, is to have a established routine and a way you go about doing your business every day. So for example, right, I get up in the morning and I heard a couple of guys talk about prayer. Prayer is important. Me and the senator, we are unabashedly Christians, and we throw our hands up and we worship. And so we don't have no problem with that. First thing I get up to when I get up in the morning is to give thanks for not making my bed my cooling board and my four walls of my bedroom my casket. There's no problem. See, I'm one of the elder guys and I'm not looking for a job, so I can tell you this, right? So, and then after that, we get up and we work out. Put yourself together for about 40 minutes. You eat right. You get the things in your house. You take care of yourself. They say before you could take care of someone else, you got to take care of yourself. So in a crisis, you put your own air mask on, right? And once you've established that you're okay and that you're grounded, from the moment that you get up in the morning, if you're occupying your day, and so I may not, I have a washing machine. My wife has a washing machine, so I don't wash no dishes, but I cut that grass, and we're doing some things that we had not done before, and we're closer to the family. If you go throughout the course of the day, by the time the day is over, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, you ought to be able to say, what have I accomplished on this particular day? We don't want to go through too many days without being able to say, we accomplished nothing. Right? We can still have impact on what we do. Mm-hmm. I think the work with our young deputy superintendent has been spectacular for me, because he is the one who will always say to the community in general, how many educators are in the room. And normally people like me won't raise my hand, but he's quick to say that in this moment in time, it's all hands on deck. We're all educators. And so if you don't know nothing about a curriculum, and if you don't know how to study Google and figure out a curriculum and design one for your kids, you could very well be an accomplice to your kid not moving along and not staying on grade level. So
I want to pause. I want to push a pin in that 1 second, Rodney, because you said something that was important. You said all hands on deck. And I think that's a perfect segue for us to now move into Kevin Livingston, because he's been on the road answering a lot of what we're dealing with in COVID-19, down to the bare bones of eating, people not having food, fathers and families needing to get access to what some of us would take for granted. And I just want Kevin to build on what you're seeing and psychologically what that's doing for the fathers and the dads that you're in contact with. Some of them are volunteering with you. Some of them are just in need. And you're seeing another part of this COVID-19 crisis play out on the street each day as you put yourself out there to help our community.
Well, I must say that in regards to being a Black father during this time, it's been rough for me. I'm gonna be, you know, I know what I do in the community, but I gotta be transparent. It's been rough as hell. You understand? I lost my hero a little over a year and a half ago. You understand? And the more I stayed in my house, the more those walls closed in on me. You understand? And so with me, it's hard to put off that energy to somebody else because you're trying to build up your community. You know, when my January 9th of 2019, my soul was scrapped. And every day I worked to be a quarter of the man that my father was to me. And that, you know, I have 3 beautiful daughters who are 25, 22, and I have a 5-year-old that kicks my ass daily. I love her. She's so funny. And I have 4 grandkids. A lot of people don't know that. And I instill into them to be fearless in whatever you want to do. A lot of people always say that my youngest daughter has a very strong personality. Well, yeah, because I make sure that she understands that the world is yours and you go get it. And so I take that same energy out into the work that I do, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I was struggling. You understand? You know, dealing with grief, losing a hero, being a Black father, having to be a strong figure because I'm a girl dad. All my grandkids, I have 4 grandkids, 4 grandgirls, and you know, it's been a struggle. But my dad was a senior citizen. I know what it was like to feed him and give him haircuts, and so it was quite natural to help the seniors in our community. And so I started buying groceries, and last week we saw 198 different households in Southeast Queens delivering groceries. I've had everybody from 60 years old all the way up to a 97-year-old woman call just to say that she didn't have nothing to eat. And I love how collectively as a community we have come together to take care of not only our seniors, but our reentry population. A lot of them are coming back into our communities, and they're coming back to broken households. Some of them have been separated from their children for a long time. And one thing that we do with not only 100 Suits, it's not a 100 Suits thing. This is a community thing. We do virtual one-on-ones with these men and try to integrate them with their children. Another thing a lot of people don't know is that we give free diapers to the fathers to bring back to their children. And so, you know, this is a very touchy topic when it comes to me because, you know, every time I talk about something about father, my father comes into my mind. And I just want to be a quarter of the man that he was and do my work. And so the more I do my work, the more I can attest to being more of a Henry Clayton. And that's my daily motivation. And that's what I want to be and who I want to be.
And thank you so much for being so transparent, Kevin, and sharing that, because that's one of the things that has helped me to resolve losses as well as support others who have lost their loved ones, whether it was to COVID-19 or prior, is that the only way we honor the people that have transitioned is by how we live. So you're a testament and an example of what it means to honor your father's legacy by doing the work that you're doing. And I think that's a great way that you can share with the dads on how they reconcile this very crazy time and what they can do in the process to stay sane. So I want to go over to Darrell Craig. As you listen to this and you're working in District 28 and you yourself are dealing with what this whole new normal is, what would be your advice to the dads that are watching? You know, this is a conversation that clearly has to be in 2 parts. There's no way we can get through all of the meat of what we want to discuss in one conversation, but what advice would you give?
For myself, well, what a lot of people don't know is also overnight, I'm a psych technician for Brookdale Hospital. So I'm really on the front line of the virus. I've still been working. I just been like the first week since I've seen my daughter since the virus started, because I was just so scared of, you know, infecting my friends and my family. So I kind of distanced myself a little bit, but this has been the first week. So if you are a dad that is in a household with your family and friends, like really consider yourself blessed, because this is the first time I see my daughter since the early March when they first closed down the schools and different things like that. And I'm used to seeing my daughter every single day. You know, I work overnight, so when I get off in the morning, I usually take her to school. So now when I get off now, you know, I could come home and be home with her. So if you are a dad that are blessed enough to be home with your kid, just consider that a blessing, because there's so many dads out here that do have the virus that don't have custody of their kids. So they rely on the weekends or picking them up from school, and being that school is out, they're most likely with the mom, you know. So for the dad, just, you know, keep hope alive. You know, I know it's like cheesy to say, but like, you know, nothing lasts forever. And you know, like you said, just keep God first. And like I said, if you're blessed enough to be in a household with your kid, consider yourself really blessed, because like a person like me that's used to seeing my child every single day, it's like torture, you know. Like I have to do a FaceTime video. My daughter's only 3, so trying to get a 3-year-old to stay on a FaceTime call, you like gotta twinkle bells and stuff in there to keep her attention. So I'll be on a FaceTime call for like 30 seconds to like 1 minute. So it's really been hard. So just the adjustment, you know, like as men, you know, we from birth, we're like told to be strong. We're told to be versatile, to be open-minded. But this is like a time that none of us ever witnessed before. So my advice was just to be strong, and anything that you can do. Like I know a lot of the, you know, the responsibility of the guys, like we're the ones that are going to the supermarkets, or we're the ones that's running the errands and different things like that. So my advice is just be safe, you know, be strong, be fearless, and, you know, and just pray. You know, that's the only way we're going to get through this with God. And hopefully things slow down. I see that the death rate is kind of going down a little bit. And hopefully this will be over soon. So like I say, just keep God first, just continue to pray. And if you do have to go outside, just make sure you protect yourself so you don't affect your kids or your family or your friends.
Well, we thank you for being on the front line. We thank you for the sacrifice, because that is a huge sacrifice. And I'm glad that you shared that, because we don't know how many men in our community are in the same position. And we can see disproportionately what this virus is doing to our communities and how it's affecting us as African Americans. Rodney spoke about it earlier. I think the Assemblyman touched on it. We all have to work on being healthier so that we can fight off things like this, but it's just hard. And I'm glad that we're in a safe conversation that you all can say is hard. And, you know, this stinks. COVID-19 is not fun, you know, and when you're losing people that you love, when you're watching what's happening, you have to find ways to have conversations, to put words around what we're seeing, what we're feeling, and how we can support each other. So before we move the conversation to what comes next, you know, as we are hearing all these conversations on re-entry and reopening and what to do, we're going to move into what's next and then possibly talk about a follow-up to this conversation. But I want Andrew to talk from the lens of someone who does a lot of community sports with young men. And, you know, you see what's happening with children. They can't do sporting events. Dads can't go out to the game like they used to, for those who love baseball, track, football, basketball. And what are some of the things that you might be able to offer the audience tonight for those avid sports fans who feel like they're locked up?
Yeah, well, definitely the track season as we know it is no more, you know, from the amateur college ranks. As you know, the Olympics has been postponed, you know, until 2021. So there's a void right now. There is definitely a void for athletics. You know, as I stated before, what I've done with my group, and I've offered it to other groups as well, is I have Zoom, you know, at least for an hour a day. I take it out of my time, you know, and we have Zoom practice. You know, one of the fun things that we actually did on Friday, this past Friday, was we used one of the apps called Kahoot. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Some of the kids using Kahoot, and what we've done is we've done a lot of trivia. You know, whether it be track related, you know, even practice related, just to keep their minds fresh on the things that we do on a regular basis. And it's not only structured in a sense, but it's fun. You know, they still have the knowledge base that they, you know, stuff that they can do regarding track is concerned. And, you know, it still keeps them engaged. And it's like, oh my God, this is so fun. So guess what? It not only is that, you're doing track training as far as us, for sports related is concerned. And you're doing the track, and it's tedious because where are you going after this? There are no competitions. AAU and USATF have closed out their season. Okay, there are no junior Olympics. There are no track meets to train for. So what's the purpose? So what we do, we're just teaching them, listen, we're keeping our bodies ready for the just in case. We know that there's not going to be a track season, but that's what we do. Just give them that focus, and it helps their bodies. We had this talk about on social media about quarantine body. A lot of us working from home will have quarantine body if we personally don't take care of ourselves. As much as we talk about the kids as well, taking care of, we're opening up avenues for them to train at home via Zoom. We also need to take advantage of that as well if we're going to go ahead and spread that message to them.
Thank
so
you, Andrew.
That's basically all I can tell you. Find different ways of keeping your athletes, your children engaged, even if they're not in organized sports. And if you need, listen, they could come on. They can hop on board on my Zoom. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Andrew. I think that is a good way for all of those who are listening and the dads who are trying to find alternative ways to be engaged. The Zoom technology, the Facebook Lives, the Instagram Lives. Some people are doing the Don't Rush Challenge. My son forbid me for getting on TikTok, but I snuck on anyway. There are things that you can do to create some outlets for the conversations that need to be had. And as we start rounding out this conversation, I want to leave time at the end for our elected officials just to share what they have pulled away from what we've been talking about. But each of you that are on the panel tonight, I want you to think about either a word, either a saying, someone that you admire, something that you would want to share with the fathers that are listening, the families that might be watching together, to keep them encouraged as they move forward into this new normal. There's some lessons that I think we're all learning. We're seeing what things are essential and what things are not, what things we can live with and what things we can live without during this time. And post COVID-19, I think there'll be an evaluation of what really matters. And I hope that during the sheltering in that we're taking time to really take stock in how we spent our time, how we communicated, what we did with our children, how we as communities communicate, women communicating with other women, men communicating with other men, and then communicating with each other. So I want you to think about the strength that you're able to draw from during this time. Where does that come from? Is it a phrase that you want to share with the audience? Is it a book that you've read? Is it a practice that you do? Is it some form of exercise? I just want you to dig deep with one good nugget that you can share with our audience to keep them hopeful, because we know that this hasn't come to stay. It will pass, but all we can control is our reactions. All we can control is how we focus, and what we focus on expands. So I want you to share something that you would like our audience to focus on with your final words tonight. And then we're going to open it up to our state senator and our councilman, and of course, our host for tonight, Assemblyman Bunnell, to share their points as we start to close out this first part. I'm gonna claim a first part because there's so much, even on a mental health piece, that we didn't even get to scratch the surface on. And we have someone that is our resident expert with Rodney Pride to go a little bit deeper in the mental health aspect and how we're seeing numbers increase on certain levels. But for now, we need your brilliance in 1.5 minutes each to share with the audience as we close out tonight. Dr. Rux, I'm going to bring it back to you for you to share that with us.
I'll just say quickly that excellence comes from chaos. And I'll repeat that again. Excellence comes from chaos. And during this moment, we really have to just take advantage of the pause that we have, take advantage of the pause and use that pause as a time to reflect, prioritize, reignite, rethink who we are, rethink who we want to be, and use this as an opportunity to be great. Create excellence in yourself. From this particular chaos, create excellence in yourself. And I'll leave you with that.
Oh, that was excellent. Excellence comes from chaos. I'm writing it down. I hope everybody's taking notes. And if you have social media, they can give you credit. I believe in letting people get credit for their intellectual property. Thank you, Dr. Ruggs. We appreciate you. And I'm going to go over to Aaron Barnett. What would you like to share?
Well, first, I just want to thank Brother Craig for even acknowledging the role that us dads who may not have full custody of our children play. You know, this has been very, very difficult. And I know a lot of brothers are out there. They may not have been able to see their children. I would just say keep your head up, stay strong, and this will turn around. But for the young men at Eagle, you know, there's a poem that we say that we use called Invictus. And that is a source of inspiration and resilience. And there's a line in Invictus that I'd like to share with the audience. It says, under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but I'm bowed. And what I often tell the young men is you turn those bludgeonings of chance into blessings of choice. You know, this disease came about as chance, right? It was something that we could not control, right? But one thing that we can control are the blessings that we take out of it, right? Use this time to get closer to your children. Use this time to get stronger. Use this time to get healthier. Use this time to get closer to God. So those bludgeonings of chance, let's use this time to turn those into blessings of choice.
I just love it. All of these nuggets. That was wonderful. Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to come over to you, Kevin, if you're able.
Oh, yeah. Just want to, close it out with some encouraging words to the brothers who are disconnected from their children, who want to be in their children's lives but have domestic issues, and them and the children's mother are not able to get on the same page. I'm a product of it, right? I've been through it. You know what I'm saying? So I want to give a shout out to those brothers who may be listening, or somebody share this post so that they can listen. Let them know that it's okay. You know, my best friend always told me it's never too late to enter your child's life. So I want to encourage those brothers that it's okay. Just make the first step. You know, your community supports you. I'll leave it off with my favorite quote ever, and that quote is, "If I fail more than you, I win."
All right, thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. We have so many drop the mic moments, but I can't drop my computer. Thank you so much. I will go over to Rodney Pride. Rodney, what would you like to share with us?
So from a practical standpoint, I'm heavily interested in education and what goes on with our kids, right? And maintaining some level of continuity so that when they come out of this, we don't lose no ground. It's important. You know, I said earlier that all hands are on deck. And so I hear us talking about disconnected dads and fathers who may just be returning, or fathers who just for whatever reason can't see their kids. I was very much involved in dads taking your kids to school and developing that in 2008. And it'll be up to me to figure out how to keep that conversation going throughout all of the public schools throughout the city, right? And I do think that there's some things that we can do. And so my challenge would be to folks like Dr. Rux, work with me in figuring out how non-custodial dads could play a role, either using Zoom or FaceTime or any other type of electronical face-to-face medium, so that we can bring another level of interest to education. I want to remain positive with these brothers. Nobody stays the same, Stacy. Either you're going to get better or you're going to get worse. And I'm convinced that we've got a wonderful team here. We'll be able to manage this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rodney. And I'll come over to you, Andrew. What is your statement that you would like to share?
My statement that I want to share is, you're not well off until you can take time off and still live well. Now, throughout this whole process, a lot of people have lost their jobs. People who thought that, oh, I'm in a great position in life and I have it made. But what did Corona did? Corona came in, and this was the big equalizer. So whoever was on top fell all the way down and was brought amongst the commoners, all right? So what this does is teach people, let's start thinking about, what are we doing right now? Or what did we do before Corona? What did we do before Corona? How do we put ourselves in a situation that when this thing happens again, we'll still be able to provide for our family? As men, those are the things that we will do. We will reinvent ourselves as to how I can be the man that I need to be for my family and not be dependent on a system that will dangle a $1,200 carrot in our face to pull us away towards voting or, you know, messing with our internal beliefs, you know. So that's basically what my goal is to make sure everyone has that understanding. Rebrand yourselves, start thinking about how are you going to be stronger out of this. One of the brothers did mention that, I can't remember who it was, but we will become stronger because of this disaster. We will become stronger.
Absolutely.
We will become stronger.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you. And Darrell, do you want to give us what you would like to share as we round out our conversation?
I don't think nobody's gonna ever forget quarantine in 2020. I know my daughter might be too young to really understand what's going on right now, but just, you know, we don't really know what the future holds. But if we continue to stay formless, if we continue to stay open-minded and versatile and stay strong, fearless, we can get through this. You know, we don't really decide what comes and go, but if we stay versatile and we try to adapt to the situations, there's nothing that we can't get past. So I'm hopeful for the future. You know, I'm gonna keep it in God's hand, and that's all we can really do.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, again for taking the time out of this Monday evening. I can't believe we're already at the last Monday in the month of April. So we're grateful that we're here, that we can be seen, that we can have these important conversations, that our assemblymen and our partnership with all the elected officials in Southeast Queens continue to be on the pulse of real-time information and dialogue that can help us not only survive, but thrive post-COVID. And I would be remiss on this wonderful conversation talking about dads and, you know, their importance, not to shout out that I am a daddy's girl and I'm married to the best dad and husband on the planet. So it is a blessing to be able to celebrate men and to celebrate what they mean culturally, what it means for us to work together as a unit and to honor the men in our lives. So for all the women who don't get to say it enough, we salute you, we support you, we love our Black men, and we thank you for all that you do for our families, for our communities, for being fathers to those who don't have that role model in their lives. So we hope this conversation sparked some more hope in your life, gave you some tactical things that you can try to do to cope with what we're dealing with, and inspires you to call another brother and just say, man, what's good? Because I know this is hard. And sometimes we just need to have those offline conversations and be real with one another. So I'm going to turn it over to our congressman and then our state senator, our councilman, and then back to our host, Assemblyman Bunnell, for their final remarks tonight. And we thank them for being a part of this conversation. Congressman Meeks.
Let me just say to all of the brothers that were listening, but especially to the brothers that was on this panel, how proud I am of them. And as you know, they talked in an honest way, and it's not easy. And the focus that you have to have. You know, this is what this is about, and what we've got to figure out is how we come out of this stronger than when we went in it. And so what I would just urge all the brothers to do, what sometimes we don't do, which we found particularly during this pandemic, you know, where folks who happen to be African American, and you know, by large, a lot of them were African American men who died as a result, in disproportionate measures, as a result of this pandemic. And some of it is, of course, because we've got individuals that are the first responders and first line individuals who, whether it's working in a health facility or whether it's driving a bus or a train or, you know, working in stores. But others is what we, and I think that as we reflect upon it, we've got to take care of ourselves. I know every year at the Congressional Black Caucus, I do something with a group of brothers that focus on making sure we go to the doctor for prostate cancer, that we watch our blood pressure, that we take care of our health. And I think that that's one of the things that is underlying here, how significant and how important our health is. Because of our health, and if we're not looking out for making sure that we're healthy, then we can't be there for our families. We can't be there to do the kinds of things that you want to do as a dad or as a husband or as a brother. So I would just close out by saying, brothers, thank you for being there. Thank you for doing what you're doing. But let's stay healthy. Let's continue to lead and make sure that you're taking care of yourself and going to the doctors and making sure that you're getting your checkups. It is tremendously important for all of us to do.
Thank you, Congressman, and we thank you for all that you're doing and continue to lift you up in our prayers because you are juggling quite a lot, advocating for all of us here in Southeast Queens. Senator Comrie, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to thank everyone for being part of this panel, all of the panelists. I want to thank Assemblyman Vanell. I think what I want to impart to people is to just open your heart and listen to all of those around you and keep an open mind and an open ear. And just remember that during this time, God will lead us through this. Just remember that He is the person that can guide us and help us. And just lean on your faith, lean on your skills as well, but also lean on your faith. And remember to be kind to everyone around you. Kindness will come back to you in many different ways. So please just remember to continue to do everything you can to be the person to be the person that you want to be, and then the person that you want other people around you to reflect on as well. Thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, Senator. And Councilman Richards.
Thank you to our Assembly member again. Thank you so much for hosting this event. To Stacy, thank you so much. You're truly a lady who knows how to hold it down for everyone. And let me just end on saying that one of the lessons I've learned, and I did a mental health panel midweek last week, is it's okay to just roll with the punches. None of us know what the hell we doing. It's okay. It's okay to recognize that and to own that when it comes to definitely this COVID crisis, especially in light of remote learning as well. Part of that. It's very important that if you do have the luxury of being home with your children, and I'm not here to lecture anybody because, like I said, we work all day. One of the things I try to do is do that daily walk around the block. My son has charted his own path nowadays. We let him decide which block he wants to walk down. Of course, practicing social distancing while we're out as well. And also, some other things. There's nothing wrong with honing your skills now. Look at me, I'm giving myself a haircut now, right? Asked my son, did he like, the barbershop job I gave him last week while he cried? Nah, he's like, you're not a barber. You're not cutting my hair, but I made it work anyway, in spite of. And look at him now. Well, you don't see him now. And then just three last things that I felt that I've used this time to really do. And like I said, I'm a work in progress, as many of us are. People like to look at us as elected officials on a pedestal, but we all are works in progress. One of the apps I downloaded was an app called Insight. So that's like meditation, because it's easy to have the anxiety nowadays. So I've used that particular app to sort of just unload a lot of the stress and tension during the day at night, help me get through sleep a little better. Budgeting. I mean, we all now know we can, Black folks have always stretched, but now we know we got to stretch a little bit more. So I've downloaded and looked at a few apps around that. How can I use my money a little bit more wisely? How could I cut down on spending on that cup of coffee every day that I used to? So I've used the time to sort of look at how am I prioritizing my budget, and then also reading, finding an opportunity when I can to read books like this. And I'll just end with, this book is called Think and Grow Rich, A Black Choice. And of course, I'm not talking about, green dollars and richness, or, totally. I'm talking about just a mindset. How can we grow in a mindset and be rich and healthy in the way we live? And just this one quote, that in the book goes, unless a man has trained himself for his chance, the chance will only make him look ridiculous. So we all have to continue to train ourselves to be better, to be stronger. And by being stronger, we can be better for our children and better representatives for our children. Once again, I'm a work in progress. No complaint in that, no shame in that. May we all continue to try to grow and stay strong during this pandemic. God bless you all. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you, Councilman Richards. We appreciate that. And just a shameful, well, not even shameful, a proud plug. Make sure you fill out your census, brothers, and talk to everybody about filling out your census. We're all a part of a coalition we're building here in Southeast Queens to get our numbers counted. Our elected officials are a direct result of us completing our census forms. All of the things that we need, our schools, our resources, we need to complete the census. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the host for this conversation. Thank you, Assemblyman Bunnell, for allowing me to be a part of this all-star lineup. I appreciate all of the work that each of you do. It's been a pleasure hosting the conversation, and we're going to have it closed out by our Assemblyman Clyde Bunnell.
First of all, I really got to give a big applause to Stacey N.C. Grant, who has graciously hosted this, and our mother's town hall, and now this. Stacey, we really, really appreciate you. Before I go on and talk about different things, I want to also shout out to the people that have been watching and supporting this, and the folks that are watching are dropping jewels. So I have to talk about Diana Rose, who said that this was such a needed call tonight. She thanks everyone that's on here. I want to give a big shout out to Rachel Thomas, who's the principal of PS 360 right here in Southeast Queens. Thank you for watching. I want to give a big shout out to Venus Ketchum, who said that she met Rodney over 10 years ago at one of the Fathers Bring Your Kids to School event. I want to give a big shout out to Shakima Davis, who says that she's praying for the men and fathers being mentally, emotionally, and physically abused at this time, whether in home or outside the home. Keep your head up. Children need both parents. Thank you for watching. Thank you for those words. I want to give a shout out to Adrian Bond and everyone else that's been watching. I want to give a major shout out to all the dads that are here, everyone, to my elected officials. And this, I want to give a special shout out to a man that I call Poppy, my dad, who still I still look up to today, who's the very, very powerful man in my life. I'm not a dad yet. I'm a dog dad. So, but for the folks that aren't dads too, if you're an uncle, if you are a godfather, if you are a mentor or what have you, you all men have a role in young people's lives. So this is not just for dads, that extends to all of us, that we all have a role in young people's lives. How you carry yourself is your testament, right? How you carry yourself, what you speak about. One of the things that I always like to talk about economics, I always like to talk about wealth. Very important for us to teach our children, to teach the next generation, especially since coronavirus, how to manage resources, how to invest, and what to do with resources moving forward. And we also, as we learn too, we have to teach the next generation. Everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. And as Stacey said, we will continue. Good night, everyone.